and welcome to Two Gray Goatees and a Whistle. I'm your host, Coach Heidi, and today got a very special guest. Coach Bruno has decided to join us today, and this guy has lived 2 or 3 different lives when it comes to sports. When we're talking about somebody who's coached at high school, coached at college levels, coached over in Europe. He's worked as a sports agent. And he's scouting, I believe, right? Too. He's done some scouting for some organizations. So we're going to have Coach Bruno talk to us today, and our topic is going to be on trying to help players who play at smaller colleges. We're going to concentrate on football. How can they get to the next level? So that's going to be our conversation. So, Coach Bruno, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, kind of give the background and some of the stuff, your credentials, and what you got going on.
Okay, sounds good, man. Hey, happy to be on the show. And basically, I played college football. Well, started with high school in Florida, and played for the legendary Coach Robbie Pruitt, who is being inducted in the Hall of Fame in both Florida and Georgia, which is impressive. Over 400 wins, I think it's unbelievable. And so he really did a lot for me, is inspiring me as to make a life out of football. And he was the first guy that ever told me that, hey, Bruno, you could go to college. I never thought about college. I grew up in a single parent household and didn't think that was going to be an option for me. But he says that football can make it happen. And so, I went all in on football and took his advice and everything he asked me to do. And it gave me the ability to be able to go play college football and start my life from there. And get a couple opportunities with tryouts at different organizations and learn some people, get into camp, and just carry my career, which eventually landed me. And I was in 49ers camp, then I was in Giants camp, and I ended up back in Jacksonville. And when I got released from that rookie camp in Jacksonville, I signed with the Sharks, who's the local arena team. Jacksonville Sharks, getting some film and played a little bit there. But while I was there, a coach who was formerly head coach at Oregon Tech named Craig Howard had come to Florida and was a high school coach at Mandarin. And he found me and says, Coach, he goes, hey, remember me from Oregon? I go, oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And he goes, I'm coaching high school here. Would you come out and talk with the team? I said, sure. And it's my hometown. So I go over there and started working out with those guys. I'd show up once or twice a week and just having fun. I was training for myself. And, I thought I was going to play football the rest of my life. And I learned that reality of coming, how hard it really is. And it's not about who's better or worse. It's about the right opportunity, being healthy at the right place at the right time, and being able to get that first door open for you. And so I was working with the players at Mandarin and Coach Howard, and I couldn't believe that you could do that. You get paid to do this. I'd do it for free. It was really fun. And he goes, hey, Bruno, why don't you just coach with me as an assistant coach while you're playing there? He goes, I'll work around your schedule. You can stay in shape. And so that's what I did. And I fell in love with it. And it's crazy how God works, because I had no intention of ever coaching football. I was a physical therapy major. I planned on playing or going back to physical therapy school, which I've been accepted to. But I just fell in love with the kids and being able to help them, the difference you make every day, and the kids looking up to you and ask you questions, and the difference you can make. And my bigger picture has always been trying to, make a big difference in the world, and not just what job I get. So it started there. And a year later, the way things happened was Coach Howard took another job and left Mandarin. And here I am sitting at, I think I was 25 years old with 1 year of experience, like no head coaching experience. And it just worked out. I ended up getting the head job because the players loved me and a lot of people fought for me. And Mandarin hadn't had a winning season. So a lot of the big time coaches didn't want the Mandarin job because, he said you're probably not going to win there. And if you don't win, you'll never get another job. And so, so it just worked out to where we won a lot and ended up number one in the state by my third year. And I had 34 kids go to college and just built a great program that is now, we built the foundation to what Mandarin is now. They play on national TV, and we've had 13 players go to NFL. I had 4 when I was there. It's a powerhouse now, but we started that thing from scratch, and it was awesome. So it was a lot of fun and very rewarding.
That's great, and being somebody who's coaches and stuff, and the fulfillment that you get from doing that, because you want to share your expertise, you want to share your love for the game, and being able to see kids grow up and how they are able to excel beyond football, become young men. I mean, that's to me, that's the pureness of coaching. So
Absolutely.
that passion is
And
being there. And
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, you're
Yeah,
good.
yeah, and I was, but that was a first step to coaching. I'm like, man, you can make a difference every day. You can get paid for this, and the key is to me, and winning is getting the guys on the team to love each other and the locker room. If I care about that guy, and we talked about On our podcast last week, our first theme was hold the rope. And that's the first thing I taught those kids at Mandarin was, hey, and it's like this again in Prague where we're at, and we're building the same exact thing, doing the exact same turnover, going from worst to first. And you do that, it's a process. But number one is you got to have guys in the locker room that love each other. That will play hard for the guy next to them. And if you're hanging over a cliff and you got a rope in your hands and you look up and there's one guy up there holding it, I mean, who do you want holding that rope? When you look around the room, this guy or this guy or this guy, if you could count on every guy that knows to hold that rope when it burns, when it hurts, when and would come over the edge with you, if you go win, you'll win like that. So we hold the rope for each other, and our guys love each other. So we went from back to the original question. We hold the rope for each other throughout life, and we teach our teams that. And it's kind of what we're doing here in the podcast. You're just holding the rope, trying to help younger people and be there for them. But after that, I was fortunate enough to have success, and Coach Zook came in at University of Florida, and they're looking for a graduate assistant, and I was looking to get into college football, and we were ranked number one in Florida, undefeated. When I accepted that I was going to go to college football, it's been my last year, no matter what happens, and it worked out to where Coach Zook helped me get over there, but I didn't have to go there as a graduate assistant because during that process, he made another call for me, and I got him on his staff. So, anyways, I went from a high school player to a high school coach. A year later, as a head coach, and spent 4 years doing that. From 2000 2004, I went to Middle Tennessee State, tight ends coach, recruiting coordinator for 3 seasons. Andy McCollum's staff had incredible time, some incredible talent, and I was able to recruit the state of Florida. So, we only had 17 scholarships, and we signed 14 Florida kids my first year there. And the second year, we were really, really good. We had a lot of freshmen playing, and it had a lot of success. We had a couple of guys that went to the NFL from Middle Tennessee there that did a good job. And in the process of doing that, I had coached Marcus Thomas and Tony Carter in high school, and it works out that Marcus Thomas went to the Florida Gators, Tony Carter went to Florida State. Both of them lived in and out of my house. They're like my second sons and my second kids, and love them. And I've always had a bedroom with an extra kid in it most of my life. Somebody needed somebody at the
Right.
time, like I needed. And so as a coach, you know how that is sometimes. And those are two of the ones that were like really close that lived in my home that I'm most proud of because they're just right now what they're doing. Tony Carter is now a head coach. He's with the Lions. He's a head college coach at Central State in Ohio. And, Marcus Thomas, a great dad, retired, set for life, and had a great NFL career, who's doing charity work in the community now. And that's the kind of kids that, we're trying to help them become better men. The thing we did at Mandarin was on Mondays, it's Man Up Monday. You learn a man skill that maybe you didn't learn at home. I was one of those kids that needed that. I didn't know how to change a tire or change the oil. I didn't have a father in the house to teach me all that. And so every Monday we would do that because we had a lot of kids in that situation. And we just teach them man skills and say the coolest thing you can be in life is to be a good father, be a cool dad. Nothing else matters. And try to raise that and break the cycle. And I see a lot of those kids now as fathers makes me happy. You had some little part in that. And being good men. But to fast forward, my last year at Middle Tennessee, I had already earned my master's degree and all that. And it just turns out we had a great season. I mean, we were bowl eligible, won our conference, but a new AD came in and they let our head coach go. And I was planning on staying at Middle Tennessee forever. I was having a great time, incredible experience. And that was the first time I'd ever been fired from anything in my life because head coach goes, everybody goes. And I was like, what am I going to do now? And so as I started looking for jobs, Marcus Thomas was coming out to the draft. And he asked me if I'd interview his agents for him. And I said, sure. He goes, I know I can trust you and all that. I'm like his dad at the time. And so I started setting interviews with his agents, and I said, they all sound good. And I had no idea how the process works. I would have signed with any of them. And he had all the big ones in the top 3 big boys in there because he was the number 1 D tackle in the draft that year in 2007. coming out. And this was as after his junior year, he could have came out in the first round, but he chose to stay for his senior year and got put off the team from Urban Meyer with for smoking marijuana and all that. He never committed a crime, but he got slammed on USA Today's front page. Avoiding the bad apple has Marcus Thomas on there, who's never been arrested for anything, with four other guys who are felons with gun charges and domestic violence and actual criminals. And it bothered me. So I made my mission to restore his character. And we went because I know the human being he is. He's a great guy, And so, make a long story short, he goes, Coach, why don't you just be my agent? I said, I don't know what that takes. And the credentials, I didn't go to law school. I had to go 2 years of that. And while I looked at the certification process, and a lot of people don't know, 90% of people are right out of law school. But to take the exam, you don't have to go to law school. You have to have a master's degree, but you have to understand sports law. So I started self-teaching and studying and all the football side of it. And I took the exam and was able to pass it. And once I passed it, Marcus would sign with me, and then ends up he got his teammates to sign with me and a couple other kids. And I go into my first draft as an agent with 4 draft picks and guys in all different rounds. It was an amazing start. And negotiated their contracts and got off to a good start in the business. And that was 2007. And by 2010, I had 34 players active in the NFL on NFL rosters, and every other league, of course, because if they don't make the NFL, you got to job place them and get them a job. And I just had an extensive network from coaches I've known through the past. And coaches listen to me because no, I'm a coach. So I get call and tell him what he can. And as a D lineman, I know the difference in a 3 technique and a 1 technique and a 5 and a 7 and how to sell them. And I had 4 guys that first year played D line. All 4 went to 4 different teams at 4 different positions because I understood where to sell them. And
Right.
so did that for a while and got a reputation with coaches because my guys came in, and even the smaller college guys, they came in and balled out. So, they saw I wasn't going to sell them duds and all that. So I did that as an agent. And then after that, I miss coaching football. That's agent stuff is business. Okay. To me, it's not fun when money gets involved and all that. I'd rather just coach ball and make a difference. And, but I said, an agent was a dirty word at that time. So I couldn't go right back into college being an active NFL agent. So I took a job in the CFL with Toronto, with the Toronto Argonauts. I had a couple of players up there that I negotiated contracts, like Chad Owens, who's in the Hall of Fame up there. I was his agent in the NFL with the Jaguars. And, I got Chad to Canada, negotiated his contract. And so I developed a good relationship with the front office. And the next year, Mr. Barker offered me a job scouting, and then it led into to a director of player personnel, and front office spot, where now I'm negotiating contracts against the agents and signing players. So I'm on the other side of it on both sides, and my whole goal was to get back on the sideline, which I kept doing for a few years. I got back on the FXFL, which led to where I'm at now in the NFL Europe with the Elf with the Prague Lions through old coaching buddy of mine named Dan Dish, who is now the general manager over there. Got me over there, and it's going really well. We've taken that thing from worst to first.
Man, so right there, you just gave a list of what you've done in your lifetime, and then that's great, and how you've run through different processes to learn different aspects of the game. So what's important to me when doing this is trying to help young men reach these goals of getting to that next level. And when this kind of sparked was with Andrew with Carter. And so
Yes.
what happened was the situation came up with Andrew was I had coached him in high school, knew that we're really good friends of the family, all this stuff. And I was at the restaurant with my wife, and his older brother came up to me, and at the time he was overplaying at Carroll, and he's won all these accolades, all conference, all American, Remington Award winner, all this stuff. He had done everything he could there, and any good scout, doesn't matter the size of school, they're going to go sniff around and say, hey, what's this about? So his brother was telling me, there was a scout from the Cardinals or something. Anyway, some scout had come in and checked on him. And I'm like, so, what's going on with that? And he goes, I don't know. And I don't know what he's going to do. And so I was like, well, I kind of know somebody who's been in the game. And so let me get a hold of you. That's when I got a hold of you. And I told Andrew, and I told his mom, I said, I have somebody I know that's willing to talk to you to try to get things worked out, to see how you take the next steps to move on after college. And so I want this to be more of understanding these kids who play at the NIA level, the Division III, Division II, who do their job, they are successful at it, and they want to go on to the next level, whether it be not just NFL, CFL, UFL, indoor league, whatever it is. So with Andrew, it came up to that, and you one of the things you brought up is like, well, is anything holding you there? You know, you can go anywhere else, and so he worked things out. He was able to go and get another year of eligibility because of COVID. Played at Weber State, did what he did there, did a great job. Then I think he got you got him hooked up with his agent who he works with, and he's been in the IFL. And his first season playing on a team didn't do so well. Last year got second team all conference, like balled out, went to the national championship, and he just re-signed back with Green Bay. He's going to go do it again. But he's somebody who's still working for that dream, but he's still playing, which is great. The fact that you get to still play football, I don't care
Absolutely.
what level it is absolutely great. And that's why I try to tell kids in high school, well, it's a NIA school, or it's like, who cares? You get to play 4 years of football. Don't scoff at it. So the thing is what I'd like to talk about is how do we help these kids? Because at a smaller college, you don't have the resources like you would at Michigan or at Florida State, where they're constantly dealing with agents and stuff like that, and they can help them get lined out. So what I kind of want to go into is like, how do we help these kids that want to get there? So exposing, like the gaps that are with small college programs. How do they get agents, scouts to help find these hidden gems that are in these smaller schools? How do they market themselves? Stuff like that. So, one of the first questions let's talk about is like we just talked about how athletic representation, how you experienced how you got there, and how you got to where you're the position you're at now, and the hustle you put in there and all that stuff. So let's look at what's the hardest part about small college players trying to get noticed? What would one of the reasons that would what's hard for them? What looking at what's the hardest thing for them to get noticed? I guess being
Okay.
at a smaller school.
It's times are constantly changing with technology and such. Now you have social media, you have huddle, you can put yourself out there, whereas you couldn't even 10 years ago, especially back when I was playing. I mean, unless a scout came through there was no chance unless you had a head coach that knew somebody in the league. Because it always goes back to relationships at the end of the day. If you know somebody that knows somebody, you can get in, just like you knew me, and that's how Andrew got some help, and it's about who you know. And that's my life's mission is helping guys like that, helping players like that. So I can tell you the answer on that is this: players have to take responsibility of their own careers, starting early now, starting in high school with NIL and everything the way it's going. And you have to have basically your working resume, which is your video, which is what you're doing every day. And being cognizant of what you're putting out on social media. It has to be your brand. You have to build your own brand. You have to be your own agent. You have to go send stuff out. There's a way to get a hold of all the arena teams and the CFL and front office, and start sending your film out to the scouting departments. And somebody like it, they'll come out and evaluate you and see you. It used to be if a scout didn't come through, you're just screwed. When it was out Eastern Oregon, the only scout that came through was from San Francisco, and he worked us all out, and that's how I ended up getting a tryout with the 49ers. It was that one guy, Charles Russ, came through, and once you got in there, now your name goes into this master list NFL, and everybody, well, what did he see that we didn't see? And you start getting other opportunities. The first one's the hardest. So build your own huddle account, build your own film, build your own resume, and start sitting out on your own. You don't need an agent to do that, and develop some interest in yourself. And second of all, if you have talk to your coach. Your coach should be real with you. Okay, he knows whether or not you possibly have talent to play the next level, and he should be honest with you. And if you're at a smaller school, you've got to have measurables. You got to jump off the map. And there's these pro standards. Or is he at least 6'2"? Is he at least 295 pounds? If he's there's separate standards for D linemen versus running backs, you must meet the standard. If you don't meet the standard with the measurables, no, they're not going to take you, because scouts, they can lose their job by signing the wrong guy. One wrong guy, and you write it, and they say, well, this guy doesn't have credibility. So they have to put their name on every report they write to their administrators, to their coaching staff, to their front office. They write down more reasons, on the top guys especially, more reasons not to take them than to take them. So there's that whole list.
Okay.
So,
All right.
you have 10 good players. Here's why we shouldn't take him, blah, blah, blah. Usually it's off the field stuff. Or a football character, he loafs on plays. He doesn't play through the whistle. He doesn't hustle. He's a selfish guy. He gets selfish penalties. There's this whole a bunch of variables that go into the report, and they get a score from it, and that's how they rate you on draft day from that score. So the best thing a player could do is to get with his coach, get some film out, have his coach make some calls for him to front office people and recommend him, and that will get as a professional courtesy. Teams will send somebody out to check you out if the head coach reaches out. In most
Okay,
cases,
so pro days, regional combines, the online reels, is this still an effective way to get noticed?
first of all, I'll tell you this, and I've had several job opportunities with this, but I turn them down every time because I don't believe in charging parents for money to get a kid recruited. I mean, I was a coach
Right.
at high school. I know how it works. I know what it takes, and no one paid me a dime. That was my responsibility. But there's the recruiting services that will come and they'll take any player. If you want to pay that fee, they'll put this portfolio out and send it out, and it just goes in the trash at most places unless they actually have a contact. And don't pay for recruiting services is what I'm saying. And don't pay some agent and ever pay an agent up front to try to get you promoted. Those are all scams that are very and if a guy comes in as an agent representing himself and says, I'm gonna get you drafted, you pay me this fee. So many people fall into that loophole, and that guy doesn't know anybody. No, a team wouldn't take a call from him if he tried, mostly because it's illegal. People don't understand. First thing, if a guy comes in and says, I'm an agent and I want to help you, so I want to see your NFLPA card. If he doesn't have an NFLPA certified contractor advisor card in his pocket, he's not credentialed. And that means teams can get fined for even talking to the guy. And that's the first way you can stop it. Because guys who carry that card, they can lose it by screwing you over. They can lose it for many reasons, and they're going to do you right for the most part.
Right. Yeah, and that so we'll touch on that too. So let's talk about the mistakes part that players do. So when somebody's trying to do their trying to promote themselves outside of what we just talked about, going to pay to have somebody recruit you, what are some other mistakes players can make when they are promoting themselves? What are some of the things that can
I can
happen
tell
that
you from
mistakes?
some experiences. Be careful what music you put on there. If I get your highlight film and this is a direct reflection of what I'm going to build a judgment upon you right away. I mean, be careful if you want a bunch of cussing, a bunch of crazy stuff on there, and you look professional. Send your top 10 plays, their best play you ever made in your life first, no matter what year it was. Catch their attention, the top 10 plays. If you don't by then, they're not going to continue on. They don't have time. There's not enough time in the day. Then they might want game film, then come out. But you got to catch their attention first. So do something that makes it different. And the second thing I can recommend, particularly for linemen, but for everybody, the more you can do, the better. Okay. If you're a DB and you can long snap, you're going to go ahead of a bunch of other DBs just because you have a special skill. If you can hold, if you can do run down on special teams, make big plays, the more you can do, the better your chances.
And I can tell you with Andrew took that advice, and I can tell you he was the long snapper the first part of the season this year because their long snapper that was originally doing it there for the
Is
Blizzard,
he?
he was out. So Andrew was doing that. So he's building his
Good.
resume, and so
Good.
getting those snaps in and stuff like that to help to build that. So
Yeah, I
can
love
you
Andrew.
share a
I was
story of a
trying to lay
player?
down Europe if we took American linemen. Just you only take skill players, quarterback and receiver. But yeah, I'm glad to hear he's doing
Yeah,
good.
well, yeah, he's doing great, and I know he's like because he's mentioned to you a couple times, like, dude, man, I would love to go over there and play, but I know there's certain rules, and then there's probably a priority what you need. But I can tell you, he's got enough film out there that he like this year he recorded 63 pancakes, and he's like, obviously that wasn't enough, so I'm gonna have so his goal this year is get 100 pancakes, just to
Good job.
try to get more out there. And so that's his mentality, and he has the mentality. I mean, he's obviously still working, so he's doing his thing. So he's hustling. All right, let's share a
Yeah,
story.
back to your
Let's share a
question, real
story
quick,
about.
Chad, real quick. I'm gonna
Yeah,
rewind this real
go ahead.
quick. You asked about regional combines and stuff. Those are valuable.
Yeah,
Players should go to those. The more exposure you can get, the better. But do not go there out of shape. Do not go there if you had a pulled muscle and put a bad time up, because wherever that number is, that's your number. So no excuses. Make sure you're in shape for that. And if you are, go to it. Okay.
all right. That's a good one. So yeah, regional combines. So yeah, they're still effective. So let's talk about stories of a player that might have that you maybe you've worked with came from a small program. What separates the player that's able to make it that came from a small program, either you know somewhere from a Division 2, some of Division 3 that or that you've known who's made it pretty far. What separates them from anybody else who's trying to get there? what's those intangibles that kind of get them to that level?
I'll tell you this, getting into camp, once you get into camp, once you're in front of there and you're one of those 101 guys that are there with a team, you guys fair shot as anybody, you know. Just getting that opportunity to get there is the difference. And that comes from what you did in college, what you did on the field, what you did off the field, what your coaches say about you,
Mhm.
what your measurables are, the kind of man you are, your character, and your effort. It's just getting in is the hardest part. So once they get in, it's up in competition, and competition is the best coach. No matter if you're in junior high or if you're in high school, if you're the star running back in high school and nobody's pushing you, you'll never reach your ceiling. You need somebody pushing you every day, and that's what you get in an NFL camp and a CFL camp, and all through every day, everybody's getting to their ceiling and making themselves better. A lot of mistakes that smaller school guys make is they're big fish in a small pond, and they're great there. And there's a question: well, could they have played at that level? And at a Florida or Florida State, in most cases, the answer is yes. They had to start there. It's just, do they get content with where they are at 80% of their ability instead of pushing that extra 20 through competition? So how are they going to respond in a real competition? It brings champions up, and some guys like Victor Cruz, who came from a small school, he went there and balled out when he got in there. And then many other guys go in there and get big eyes and get scared. So it's an individual believing in yourself and building your resume on film.
Okay. What would be the biggest mindset difference between a Division One versus a D3 prospect? Is there a different mindset between those guys that is where they're at or where they're going?
I think football is universal, and I think pretty much everybody on a D3 school thinks they should be at a D1. I mean, if you're a competitor, you think you can. Very few people are realistic with themselves, and that's one thing you got to learn as you get a little older and are still chasing the dream after college. Is you got to manage expectations and you got to prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. It's very hard to make it, no matter what school you go to. Just to get the opportunity to play professionally anywhere, arena league or anywhere, is very difficult. The market's flooded with great players. So how do you separate yourself? It's by the things you do when no one else is looking, like the way you work, the way you grind.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's the one thing we always tell our kids, when you get better is when nobody's looking.
That's
That's
it.
the key, and I know, what are you doing, at 6 o'clock after practice is over with? What are you working on? So let's look a little bit about the financial reality. Traveling, training, housing, these you try to chase his dream for so long. You have, you know, I look at the in a little bit I know about the IFL and stuff like that, that they have certain restrictions, what they can pay, stuff like that. But when you're chasing this dream, when you're trying to explain this to players and stuff like that are trying to chase that dream, what's the financial reality to this? So uh, when you, especially if you end up getting an agent and that agent's working trying to do his job, obviously he's not doing that for free. I mean, he's should be getting paid. He's going to get paid something, right? So
No, you should be doing it
what's
for free.
the he should be
That's a big scam that get caught up on. Never pay an agent before you have a contract. Your agent's job is to put in that grind. You don't pay them anything up front. You only pay them when they get your job, negotiate a contract, and they get paid off that contract. So don't pay an agent to get you a job. That's a scam because you'll be spending money, you'll never get a job.
that's okay. That's good knowledge to know. Um, roles of family, we've talked about it, the importance of family, coaches, mentorship, helping these players stay realistic. So you obviously you've coached plenty of players that have reached the NFL, uh, CFL, stuff like that. Being a mentor or a coach, how do you help keep it real, keep it realistic for these guys so they can, but yes, keep them motivated? Like, how do you keep them from letting their ego take over or something like that? How do you keep them reined in so they are staying humble and putting in the work?
Well, I'm probably a little bit different than most people. I'm 53 years old and I still think I can beat any of them up, which I can't. So they listen to me. I get on them. I'm hard on them.
Yeah,
My first name's Richard. They call me Coach Dick sometimes because I'm a jerk to them. I'm hard on them. When I say that, they know I love them. And I'm gonna do what's right, but I'm gonna be real with them. And when they're slipping, I'm gonna let them know. And I treated my clients as an agent exactly like I treat my players on my team. I want you to be your best, so we can all win. And I'm gonna be on you hard until you and make sure that you're not messing up. Because as an agent, you're invested in this. I mean, if a guy hires you as an agent, you got to put time in months to get him a job, and you're putting all the money out, getting him training, getting him these combines. You're paying for all this that you can't charge back unless he gets a job. So you have a vested interest. So, and that's why I tell him, I'm playing with my money. You're playing with my money and yours. So get out of the club, get your butt home, get ready to work out in the morning. So I treat them like that, and the egos, I put them in check. And if they're bad character guys, I just get rid of them. I'm not gonna waste my time with guys that I don't love and I don't care and I don't want to put my name on, and I like guys that are in the same plan as I am, as being good people, working their butts off, and being good players and appreciating and being grateful for everything they get. That's the only type of people I'll deal with.
So we kind of talked about the red flags for agents. So you don't pay up front, stuff like that. Especially if they're working for the NFL, if they are an NFL scout, or an agent, making sure they're doing that. On the scouting side, how do we know? How do they watch for if things aren't legit? Like if they, hey, I'm a scout from such and such, team.
Well, I'll tell you,
What would you be looking for there?
it's so much changed. The dynamics have changed since NIL. It's the wild, wild west right now. So I mean, it's a rat race. You know, those guys don't have to be certified to do marketing deals and come in and negotiate NIL. And they never did. You could be a marketing agent. Anybody can. Anybody on the street can go be one right now, which then lies the problem. And so there's not a lot of certifications and backgrounds and all that stuff. So you're taking a big chance on with a guy that hasn't been like through NFLPA certification and things like that. But that's the market now. So the best thing I can tell you is if they have a shirt of a team on and a credential from an NFL team or CFL, they're legit from that team. You can always look it up on the team's website. If they're handing you a card and saying, I'm so and so from where, be very, very wary. And what are your credentials? Who have you worked with? Because a lot of them go out and tell you a list of 40 guys and they don't know a damn one of them. I've just seen it happen too many times. And well, I worked with this agent and he represented him, but you didn't represent him. You never even met him. So just stop that. But there's a lot of just guys out there that are unscrupulous and trying to make a name for themselves off of you. And don't let that happen.
Okay. So how do players protect themselves financially and contractually? So let's say they whether it's through free agency or something like that, they get a contract from the CFL, UFL, NFL, wherever. What is something that those players can do to protect themselves? So they owned signing off on something, and then there was some clause in there saying that if you get caught going skiing during
I'll tell you the
season,
best way.
you're
I'll
gonna lose
tell you
your
the best way.
conference.
The best way is to not let one guy do all your business. And as an agent, I want to do all their business because then you represent you recommend your financial guys that you trust, and you represent the marketing guys. I mean, you put your team together. You're the quarterback of that team. But there's a lot. When sometimes that's risky because are those guys loyal to you, or they feed into other agents and help instill your clients? So you got to pick your team wisely. But what I would tell you is hire a financial advisor there's plenty of those that are certified through extensive testing through the NFLPA. Those guys are all usually above board, and have them double check your agent. Don't let your agent pick your financial guy for you. You pick your own financial guy, marketing guy, and you pick your own agent, two separate entities. Now they're going to keep each other in check. If the agent's doing stuff, this guy is qualified to read that contract and go through and say, no, we're not going to pay 10% for that. We're going to do 8. That's why he's your financial advisor. So put a team together. Don't put it all on one guy. And then you have checks and
That's
balances.
good advice. Yeah, because I also look at especially when
or
somebody makes it big.
that's done it like me, because I'm gonna be getting back into consulting next year, and I can pick it for you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, because for here, a player I coached, he's in the NFL right now, Colston Loveland. So, and I know him, and I know he is, and great kid, great family. He's doing his thing right now. It's his rookie year. He's trying to he's living that dream right now.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
what I sometimes I tell some of these kids and stuff, they want to do this, especially if they are getting close and they looks like that. One thing I always tell them is like, especially if you reach that level, you're gonna find out you had cousins you didn't know about. And so, they're gonna next thing you know, somebody might be trying to hit you up, hey, can you loan me that, or can they're gonna be expecting a lot to you, especially if you do sign that contract. So keeping things close to the chest and stuff like that, and probably keeping your circles relatively small. So is there any kind of other scams that get out there, especially if this player does make it to the NFL, that they have to, kind of keep an eye out on,
Yeah, well,
Because it
90% of
seems
that's your
like
agent's
once they
job.
sign the NFL contract,
Your agent has to be your voice piece, and he has to be your no guy. Refer everybody to your agent, and your agent should find a way to tell them why you can't. And that's his job, because it's hard to say no for a lot of these guys. If people are coming at him, say, my agent, my financial advisor handle all of that, keep it separate. And then if they don't respect that, then they're just trying to use you anyways. But keep that separate. And yeah, my partner Jared and I, we do our podcast together, and that's what we talk about all the time. Is trying to, it's all we're about, is helping guys and helping young men become better men and fathers and all that. And part of it is by getting your circle smaller. The older I get, the smaller my circle becomes, because everybody don't hold the rope for you and all that. So if they, if they weren't with you when you got there, I would bring with me when I'm there, and that's pretty much kind of how it goes. And I've seen story after story, personal examples of players of mine who just have a big heart. They've got totally screwed over by relatives who they thought were family. They was just using them and taking advantage of them and all that. And eventually you'll go broke doing that, and you'll be sitting there and will nobody be there for you. So just keep your circle small and get smaller as you grow.
so going back to the NIL, because we know that's right now it's crazy how once that opened up here a few years ago, how the whole dynamics and how recruiting happens in college and high school, and we're
Everything.
constantly hearing players getting poached, from a school, and the next thing you know, they're that team that you built that's did really well, you lose half your team because they end up signing up with bigger schools. Um, is the impact of the NIL affecting small college recruiting? Is that becoming a part of that too, kind of affecting some of these
Well,
kids that might be at a
I'm not
smaller college that might want to move up?
Well, I can tell you it is, because you remember Coach Ian Shields, who was at Eastern Oregon and Oregon State quarterback,
Yep,
and he's the coach at Minot State right now, and he's dealing with that. He does a good job D2, but if a guy does good there, then the next year he's not going to be back. He's going to transfer and go back, and it's constant turnover, which we never had before. So it's just a whole new ball game, and I couldn't tell you the right or wrong answer, because it's just so new, and we're so wild west. It's changing every week. There's new year, every year is new rules right now, and so navigating that is going to be difficult. And that's why I'm offering a service like we do in our podcast. Mine is just, I'll give you free advice. Anybody wants to call in, parents, kids, whatever, how to make it, whatever. I'm just going to be on Monday nights offering free advice and with no vested interest, and try to guide them as best I can.
that's good. And we're going to talk about that here, like because I'm going to have you promote the hell out of your show so we can get more viewers for you. One thing I do want to ask, so players stay mentally grounded when they get overlooked or cut. So let's say something happens, they got cut, you know, things happen, you didn't, you try to get made the 53 on the roster, didn't happen. Or if you're in the UFL, CFL, something didn't happen, you got cut. How do they stay mentally grounded when they do get overlooked and cut? So, if, like I said, I'll use Andrew again. The kid's hustling, he's doing his thing, and he still hasn't got that call yet. How do they work through that? What's their mindset? What should they be doing to try to stay positive? Because they're putting in the grind, they're doing everything they're supposed to. They're getting beat up like everything else, but before too long, that window could possibly close just because of age and you know the what comes with the business. So how do we help those kids?
It's the hardest thing to navigate, because I mean, they got to manage expectations and understand. At some point, you play for the love of the game and not potential to make money, and usually the money comes with that if you do that. But if you're trying to go to the NFL and you didn't get an opportunity out of college, you went to Arena League, you went somewhere else to get some film, and you're still not getting an opportunity. By the time you're 26 years old, is pretty much over. I mean, because there's an age that NFL puts on. They want young every year. It's what people don't understand in football. Every year, you go into camp. You have 101 guys or something. You come into camp and you get down to 53, the 53-man roster. Well, now you got another 40, 50 guys on the street that were just a professional athlete last month that are hungry and there, and they got the guys that were there last year. So that's kind of the cycle. Now your third year, teams want to bring in young guys. They want young, young, young. They want 24, 23, 22, and to evaluate them. They're not going back and looking at the 27, 28-year-old normally that didn't make it, that fell through the cracks. They're looking for the new guys. So a guy can set out for a year And I've had plenty of guys sitting there. I got cut by the Jets. I said, man, well, if they didn't pick you back up by the spring, you didn't go to mini camp, there's a very small chance you'll get into camp, after fall, especially when the practice squad is announced. But they have agents that are telling them to hold on because the agent wants them to hold on just in that chance he gets picked up, he can get a commission, where the agent's not going to make any money really if he goes to Canada or goes to Arena League or goes to Europe. So the agent's giving him a bad advice at his own best interest, and it happens a lot. And the player will sit there. Now, 2 years later, he didn't play anywhere else. Now there is no opportunity. Now you're out of game shape. So always stay active. Play Arena League, play indoor, play wherever you can play to get film. That's a new day of building your resume, and hopefully you can get an opportunity. Don't quit on your dream, but don't sit there and chase that dream forever if that's what your goal is. Because a dream without a game plan is just a fantasy. That's what it is. A dream, you set a goal, you get a plan to get there, and you be realistic. If you're not there, what you need to change.
Good. I love it. All right, I'm gonna switch it up. We're gonna do a little mini game, and we'll do one more segment, then we'll get you out of here. So we're gonna go scout or myth. All right, so we're gonna break this up. Basically, what I'm gonna do is you're gonna say scout, so either true, mostly true, or you're gonna say myth, like it's false or misleading. So I'll read a statement, and then you're just gonna tell me whether it's scout or myth. Okay.
All right.
All right. So first one. If you're good enough, they will find you.
Myth. You got to put yourself out there.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, we'll keep it there. D2 players can't handle NFL speed.
Myth.
Okay. Agents only care about Power 5 players. Okay. Social media helps more than it hurts. Well, so this will be interesting. So go ahead, man.
I'm going to say scout.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. All you need is one big combine performance to make it.
That's scout. If you have a big combine performance, it's not all you need, but it helps.
Okay. Character questions. Go ahead if you want to finish up that thought.
On that thought, you got to get to the combine. That's the hardest part.
Right. And that's the hardest part.
Combine,
no, because they only take so many. Yep. Yeah. And then if you honestly look, kids that might be a small college that make the combine, it's like maybe
there should be an investigation.
You
Who picks the doggone players for the combine? It's one of my biggest pet peeves, and they never take this. You hardly ever see the smaller college guys get an opportunity there, and that's why they're doing the other bowl games, the other combines. It's not fair. Even Tony Carter from Florida State, who's All-American, who had a first cornerback to start 4 years at Florida State after Deion Sanders, he didn't get invited to the combine. Who's picking this? And they said, well, he's little from his size. He's 5'9", so we didn't think. Because I went crazy. I went to the combine and got the T-shirt for the milk carton with Tony Carter on it, said missing, and put all of his stats on the back. And went out, out cards to everybody, and they brought him into camp. He ends up starting and goes Super Bowl, but he didn't get invited, and a lot of guys would have gave up.
Right, and I see that too. And I don't know. I follow college football a little bit, but I know there's tons of talent out there that misses out, that somehow doesn't get in the combine, and
Absolutely.
then we bring some of these other guys in there. Especially it seems like, because quarterbacks always talked about, you look at the quarterback and these guys, man, their release is horrible. And they're, barely getting the passes. I'm like, you're telling me there's not anybody else in this country that you can get to prove what they're worth just because they didn't go to a D1 school. So yeah.
Another thing I'd recommend to a kid, go ahead, right there in that situation is, if you don't get invited to the combine, and you're probably not going to have scouts come out to your pro day if you're at a small school, what you can do is you can get invited to another pro day where they will be, like at Oregon, for example. If you're at Eastern Oregon, you can go to, if the University of Oregon will let you in, or Oregon State, you can go there where there's going to be a ton of scouts, and you've got to get that exposure. Try to get into a bigger pro day if you can.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. Character questions can kill more opportunities than bad stats.
Absolute scout.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
100%.
I would think so. Small school players have a better odds. Okay. Small school players have better odds in the CFL or UFL than they would in the NFL.
Better odds as far as getting an opportunity?
Better odds. Better odds opportunity to get into a CFL, UFL than they would ever in a NFL.
Myth.
Small school players.
Well, when I was director of player personnel for the Argonauts in the CFL, and we only looked at players that were in NFL camps that got cut. Those are the guys we're going after. They should have made the NFL, but didn't quite. We don't really scout colleges too much and stuff. So you have to make it NFL to get those other opportunities. And now in Europe, we're looking at guys that got cut by the CFL and NFL and trying to find the best guys from there. So that first opportunity is everything if you can get it.
And I can see, and what I see in the IFL, because I'm following it just because Andrew really, the kids in the IFL that are getting opportunities, CFL keeps looking at them now too. I'm seeing like one of the kids
Yeah.
that Andrew played with, TJ. Remember TJ Davis at Nebraska Kearney?
Oh, no, of
So
course.
Andrew
Yeah,
played. Yeah. So Andrew played with TJ. They played together, and TJ actually got picked up by Winnipeg, so he's playing up at Winnipeg right now. So the
good. I know
IFL is
that.
becoming, yeah. So
Well, we're
TJ,
signing guys in
which kind
Europe
of
too
a
now. We're signing guys out of IFL. I mean, I brought in a receiver this year, straight IFL, and I'll tell you real quick for your show right here is, I mean, this guy bugged me so much. I eventually brought him in so he leave me alone. Like honestly, he would send me stuff every
right,
day, which that's what you got to do. He was his own
right.
agent, and he would send me stuff. Look, I ran the fastest time here. I did this, and every day I get my Instagram, my inbox. I said, all right, Prince did something this week. Let me check it out. And eventually, I said, the guy can play. I can't deny it. We brought him over. Did a great job. Come out of IFL.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I mean, which that's kind of what the IFL's for, is to help these guys get that medium, like another chance to play, to basically get tape out there to help them get into that 11-man level. All right. That's it for that. I got one more segment. I always do this. It's unusual mascots. So with an unusual mascots, what I do is I try to find unusual high school mascots from around the country. So the Maniacs over here at Orfino, I've done those. I've done the Criminals out of Yuma, Arizona. Out of Oregon, I did the
Yeah.
Ben Lava Bears. So yeah. So the last part here is we're going to talk about a school down there called Oxbridge Academy. Have you ever heard of Oxbridge down there? It's a private co-ed
I have not.
college prep school. Okay,
I
grade
have not.
6, 12. It's in West Palm Beach, and their mascot is the Thunderwolves. Okay, so the Thunderwolves, that is the mascot of the week. So there you go. Well, Coach Bruno, let's use your promo. So you got your own show. Let's talk about it real quick. Let's get you to talk about what it's about, when you're doing your episodes, day, time, and all that stuff. And so we can get people out there to listen to you.
Okay, we're just starting a grassroots podcast with a really close friend of mine. We go to church together and share the same faith, and try to make a difference in the community. He's been more involved with suicide prevention, drug and alcohol rehab, and just has donated his time as part of his life's mission. And mine has always been to help kids, single parent households or kids that just need direction, and through sports and my platform of football. But we got together to do a podcast over a project that we're working on, which is a crypto project actually, but it's the future of obviously future of finances is crypto. And now a lot of players and coaches are doing their contracts are getting paid in crypto instead of cash because digital currency is the future. So we're just doing a free service on a podcast, and I want high school players and coaches and guys who are trying to make it to play pro to have a source to come to, because there's not a lot of information out there, especially accurate information of how to do it and what's the right thing to do, and picking an agent, picking a college to go to, and why. The biggest mistake you can make as a player is go to a college that doesn't suit you and your skill set, and you go to a name instead of where you should have gone if you're going to try to play professionally. So I'll try to give advice on that. Of how to pick your college, how to pick your agent, how to do this. And that's what our podcast is about, and how to be a good man, how to be a good person, you know, and all that. So with that said, I'll just refer to my partner, Jerry's in my podcast. He'll give the details when it's on. He does all that. I just show up and run my mouth. So here's Jared right here.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay.
How's it going?
Good. How you doing, man?
Good, good. So yeah, just a little, he was just talking about, players needing to do what it takes to figure out, the best place to put themselves in position, for themselves moving forward. And, when it comes to crypto, there's a really scammy, shady things out there that people can get caught up in. And one of my missions in life has always been to help people get you know, be able to get into things that aren't going to hurt them in the long run, and you know, whether it be from drug and alcohol addiction, and you know, recovery stuff like that. But about 6 years ago, I got involved and started learning a lot about crypto projects and figuring out what needed to happen to be able to make something that's more of a safe space. And so that's really what we're doing. And we've actually tied this project to the podcast, where we're the hat that we're using. Bring the Hat is actually part of the crypto project as well. It stands for something. It has a meaning, which means to give your everything every day and do it honorably. So whenever you bring the hat, that means you're bringing it. You're doing it every day. You're doing the most you can. When you lay your head down at night, you know, you do you know that you brought the hat that day? Are you going to wake up the next day knowing that you gave the most? And that's the way to live. That's the way you can be successful, and that's the way that you know, a lot of people, especially these days when it comes to digital assets, they either stay completely away from it because they're scared and they don't know anything about it, or they stay away from it because they've heard too many terrible things about it. And so it's an opportunity for us to be able to onboard some people that, you know, at the end of the day, everything is going to transition to digital money, and everything's going to be on the blockchain. It just is what it is. And so we're creating a project where people can invest in it. You know, not financial advice at all, but it's a community based project that is, you know, it's going to go up into the right long term. We are the founders. We're not going anywhere. We're not going to, you know, put our faces out here and, you know, go steal everybody's money. That's not what it's about. It's about helping young men figure out what life's all about. It's about helping give young men direction. And instead of, you know, potentially them investing in something where they're going to lose all their funds. And, you know, as Coach said, I even helped with the suicide awareness project. You know, these guys are investing into crypto projects and losing all their, you know, life savings, and then they're going and killing themselves. And it's a terrible thing that, you know, it could be a very nasty thing, but it can also be something that is very beneficial. You have to be around the right people. And that's the way it is in any organization, any type of anything, sports, whatever it is. Just like with what's going on with gambling, there are always going to be bad actors in everything. And so you just have to surround yourself with the right people. And, you know, that's what we're trying to do with Bring the Hat and with our crypto project, Original Whip. So, yeah, I'll kick it back to Coach. Yeah, I'm excited. I appreciate you having us on, and you know, it's a great opportunity to hear Coach talk more about what he did in the past. He's definitely got a lot of knowledge there when it comes to helping players get where they need to be.
Yeah.
And
And I
so anyway,
appreciate both of you
help
guys.
us. Like, we're new at this, so we're kind of, you know, doing this interview. We're watching what you do as well. Any advice you got would help.
Yep. So yeah, so this would just a little bit I know. So I mean, you know, have your name out there. So are you guys doing basically a live stream? Is that how right now you're doing it? You got live
Right
stream
now,
set
no,
up?
we're
Is that
going to be recording through FM and then posting it as
yeah? So yeah, and then as you do that, I use Buzzsprout and there's other ones out of there, and I use Buzzsprout to distribute. So all I do is after use Riverside, get everything edited and cut what I want. Then I download it to Buzzsprout, and Buzzsprout will kick it out to like 10 or 12 different podcast platforms with YouTube. And there's a feature now with that will go to YouTube. YouTube's the only one you have to kind of like go in and go in to have their account with YouTube and then set up a little bit differently. But it'll tell you how to do all that. All right, man.
Thanks.
I'll let you guys go.